Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by
Huron Lady River Cruises in Port Huron, offering daily sightseeing trips and private cruises. Sightseers will experience the International Blue Water Bridges, Great Lakes Freighters, the Fort Gratiot Lighthouse, and more. Huron Lady River Cruises on the web at huronlady.com.
Welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I'm Jenny Olson, and this week we're going to take you to a couple of different places around the state out on the water. We'll also bring you some shooting tips. One of the places we're going to take you out on the water is Port Huron over on the east side. Now, I spend a great deal of my time in the summers over in Port Huron helping out on the Huron Lady tour boat. We had an event out on the tour boat that I think a lot of sportsmen would be interested to see. We'll also stay on the east side, take you down to Lake St. Clair.
Well, that's right, Jenny. We are going to stay over on the east side of the state on this week's program. We're actually going to visit one of the many unique bodies of water we have here in the state of Michigan, and one of those is Lake St. Clair, voted the #1 bass fishing lake in all the world. We're going to stop in with one of the more famous names in bass fishing. That is Van Dam, Jonathan Van Dam, an up-and-comer in the bass fishing series. You won't want to miss that. We're also going to stop in with a expert shooter here in the state of Michigan when it comes to shotguns, and we're going to get some good shotgun shooting tips for us for all of us who are wing shooters. So lots of good stuff on this week's program. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan Out of Doors. Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Greenstone Farm Credit Services, making recreational land ownership possible across Michigan and northeast Wisconsin. Begin your land financing journey at one of Greenstone's 37 locations or visit greenstonefcs.com. By Meijer, a destination for hunting, fishing, and camping. From bug spray and tents to GPS and gas, Meijer has nearly everything you need to take on nature and get you there. Meijer. By Zimmer Roofing and Construction in Port Huron, featuring Duralast roofing systems made in Michigan. Zimmer Roofing and Construction provides installation, maintenance, service, and repair, serving commercial and residential clients on the web at zimmerroofing.com. By Country Smokehouse, offering a variety of meat products. Country Smokehouse is located 3 miles south of I-69 on M53, just south of Imlay City. Country Smokehouse is a meat processor, a butcher, and a destination for sportsmen.
Game plan is pretty simple. We're on Lake St. Clair, so we're just gonna go out there and catch them.
Yeah? Few bass out there, is there?
One or two, you know.
One or two. Have you been fishing just a day or so here?
You know, I've fished here many times, but I haven't been here recently. The last time I was here is probably about a month ago, and the fish were still spawning. So I was here yesterday for a few hours, messed around a little bit, found some fish. So this should be fun.
Today I was hitting the water with one of the most famous names in bass fishing on one of the best bass fishing lakes in the world.
I mean, there's really not much. I mean, through the experience I've had here, I've just found certain areas that consistently hold fish. But the thing is on a lake like St. Clair, especially in the summertime, these fish just roam out here. They get about throughout the whole lake. I mean, you can basically just go anywhere, run out in the middle of the lake and start fishing. And typically there'll be some fish around. Some areas are better than others, but they move around a lot. So I just try to find, you know, go to areas where I've found a lot of good fish before, and you know, try to look for some active fish, you know, groups of them. Usually I try to find them with my electronics.
If you're a bass guy, you have heard of Kevin Van Dam, but his nephew Jonathan is really making a name for himself as well on the Elite Bass Series, and I asked him just what sets apart the top bass guys from us average fishermen.
You know, the elite guys are just able to make a lot of the adjustments and stuff on the fly, whereas that's where I see a lot of local guys, you know, struggle with doing that, you know, whereas if we're fishing like we are now and something tells me to pick up a drop shot, I'm going to pick up a drop shot rather than, you know, sticking with a tube or whatever, regardless if I'm catching them or not. You know, it's just all about going with your gut instinct and stuff like that. And those guys they're just really good at doing that.
Now, who's the better fisherman, your dad or Kevin? You might incriminate yourself.
No, I know. I mean, Kevin fishes a lot now. You know, my dad doesn't get to fish as much as he used to. But everyone always tells me that back in the day that my dad was better than Kevin was. You know, but I don't know. I fish with my dad still quite a bit, and he whips on me pretty good sometimes still. So he's a pretty good stick.
Well, Jonathan's dad is Randy Van Dam, the owner of DNR Sports in Kalamazoo. And not only is he a good fisherman, but a heck of a good guy as well. Actually, Kalamazoo is where Ben Malish, our other angler on the boat, first met the Van Dam family, and now is one of Jonathan's sponsors as well.
I had family that grew up in the Kalamazoo area, which is where Jonathan is from as well. And, you know, like many of our employees and our customers, he's an avid outdoorsman. So when the opportunity came available to have Jonathan represented us, Greenstone jumped at that.
Well, sponsors are a big deal in this sport, man. Much like NASCAR, these guys have logoed boats and trucks, and if you see them driving down the road, well, they are hard to miss. But that's part of the game when you're some of the best fishermen in the world.
That's a better one right there for sure. Look how fat he is. He's been eating healthy, full of gobies and perch, I'm sure. That's kind of one of the main forages out here. They have alewife stuff too, but that's more like it. You know, that's a 3.5.
Yeah, that's a good looking fish.
Pound range. That's what you want when you come to Lake St.Clair.
Nice job, young fella.
Lake St. Clair was recently voted the top bass fishing lake in the world, and when it comes to picking which bait to use, Jonathan definitely has his go-to bait out here.
There's a lot of stuff you can throw. Soft plastics kind of rules the roost out here. Anything that's made to mimic a goby is usually pretty dang good. Drop shot is a great technique also. I like the tube. The tube you seem to catch more of the better size fish. I mean, you still catch, you know, some of them smaller fish, but I found a lot of times the tube just seems to get some bigger bites for whatever reason.
There we go. Look at that.
That's more what you're looking for out here. And he ate it too.
Good.
Ate it good. That's exactly what you come to Lake St. Clair for.
Look at that fish.
4-pounder.
Well, we seem to just be hammering the fish today. Jonathan seemed to be reeling in one after another. Now, growing up here in Michigan, it's good to see that our state is represented pretty well in the bass circuits. And many of the folks watching probably wonder, as I did, just how do you become a professional bass fisherman? And just as how does all that work?
Finally, I moved up and I got into a couple pro-ams. You know, the Bassmaster Opens is what they call that series. And did pretty well in those. I mean, my first tournament I finished third in. You know, I fishing as a professional. And I was pretty excited about that. So at that point, you know, I knew I could compete with those guys, you know, but, you know, it's still a long road. It was another 2 years of fishing those tournaments. You know, there's only 3 a year. And they have a points race, just like any, you know, any circuit does. And finally, I did well enough in the points, because what would happen was I'd have 2 real good tournaments, and then I'd have 1 bad one, and that'd ruin your points. So finally had a good year on the points on that deal, and that's how I qualify for the Elite Series is through the Bassmaster Opens. Yeah, you have to stay in the top 70 or something, I think, in points, 65 in points for the year, to stay in the Elite Series. So, and that in itself is pretty tough to do, just because those are the best guys in the world. So it's extremely challenging.
Now, I would imagine with the last name of Van Dam, it's probably opened some doors for you, but has it made it tough in some ways? Did they expect too much out of you, or what do you think?
It has, it has its benefits and it has, its faults. There's not many faults. One of them is people just expect me to do well just because of my last name, So, I fish totally different than what Kevin fishes and some of those, and my dad even, we all have our own style. So I'm just trying to kind of make my path,
Well, for my time on the water with Jonathan, I think this young man is finding his own path. And with a name like Van Dam, folks will notice him, maybe more so than some. But I think what they'll find is a good guy who simply loves to fish and is at home on the water here in Michigan's Out of Doors. Well, we are going to switch gears a little bit, and although there is a lot of good places to do some fishing here in the state of Michigan, there's also a lot of good places to do some shooting this time of the year. We're going to stop in with Pat Liskey at the Island Lake Range to get some good tips on how to be a better shotgunner. When it comes to shooting ranges here in our state, we are lucky to have several good ones. One of the best is done in conjunction with the DNR, the Island Lake Range. This place has it all. Top-of-the-line equipment, open to the public, special events, and world-class instruction. Pat Liskey is the guy here who runs this place and also is on the U.S. Sporting Clays team representing our country later this year in England. When you get around shooters like this, you want to pick their brain, and that's what today was all about. I asked Pat what is one common mistake he sees hunters and shooters make.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is when you're out shooting and you're out in the hunting field hunting, you're going to start with your gun dismounted because you don't know when the bird's going to come. And most shooters are not very good at mounting the gun properly. And there's actually a little bit of geometry to gun fit and to mounting your gun properly. If you mismount the gun by a 1/16 of an inch, it's going to move the pattern by an inch at 16 yards. And most of the times I see someone mismount the gun, it's by 1/2 inch or more. So when you project that out at distance, you're not going to hit the target. I think especially for when you're out in the field, let's go ahead and close. We have a safe gun. We're going to close it and just kind of go through some of the steps here. But if we've got a bird that we're going to shoot out at a distance, we always want to have the gun, especially for a hunter, up above and clear of where the dogs might be. And when the bird flushes, if you're a right-handed shooter, you're going to always start the gun mount with your left hand, which means as the bird flushes, your left hand will begin to point towards the target as your right hand lifts the gun to your cheek. What I see happen the most is that when the bird flushes, someone will immediately mount the gun and then try and swing after the bird with the mounted gun, which is much more difficult than just pointing the gun while you're mounting to the moving target.
Okay. Just tell me how he's doing there.
Yeah, pretty good. He's still leading a little bit with the backhand. It's almost like you're feeling both hands working together. As you lift the gun towards your cheek, it'll come to your shoulder about the same time as it hits your cheek. So we're not really trying to get it necessarily to your shoulder. We're trying to get it to come right under your cheekbone so that your eye is properly aligned. And then when that's all finished, it doesn't fit back here, that's where the gun fitting comes into play. But we want the gun to come up under your cheek and so that your eye is on top of the gun barrel, so the gun shoots where you think it is, most important thing. And then if that's not right back here, we fix it back here with gun fit.
Okay.
So let's assume we now have our gun mounted properly. Now, some say don't look at the bead on the end of your barrel, but what does a world-class shooter say about looking at your barrel?
What you're going to do is you're going to focus on the target you're trying to hit as hard as you can. And I think that most people are going to sense or perceive or feel where the gun's at in their peripheral vision, but you're not going to look for it. If our eyes have a really unique ability to look at a distant object and sense where something close is, but we don't have the same ability to look at something close and see that distant object. So once you take your eyes off of the bird, as it may be, and look at the end of the gun to see where the bead's at, you're going to immediately stop because your brain's not getting the stimulation of seeing a moving object anymore. It's looking at that static gun.
Focusing on that target is key, but just where should that focus be? How do we judge just how much lead we need to give a clay target, or more importantly, a crossing grouse?
So again, we've got a safe gun, empty. If you spread your index finger and your thumb across that gun, that's what 4 foot of lead looks like on a crossing bird. So if you just do that across here, so when the bird's crossing, that's what 4 foot of lead looks like. Now if you spread your index finger and thumb across a bird flying away from you, they're almost touching in this spot. That's what 4 foot of lead looks like. So it doesn't take very much perceived lead when the bird's flying away from you, but when the bird's flying across from you, it's going to take quite a bit more perceived lead. The length of the gun hasn't changed, it's just the way it appears is what's changed. So it's really important to know that, shooting winged birds or clay birds.
Another common thing you hear at ranges is keep the barrel moving, and that does have some validity. But it was interesting to hear from Pat that maybe we have given that idea a little too much emphasis.
The moment the shotgun's been fired with modern ammunition, that shot charge is on its way out of the barrel. And it's going out of the barrel in a clay target load at a little over 700 miles an hour. So you're either in the right place when you pull the trigger or you're not. You can't really influence the shot after that. But it helps to, follow through a little bit. I mean, if this is the target and I need to shoot here to hit it, when I pull the trigger, if I'm there when I hit it, stopping the gun's not going to influence the shot. If I pull the trigger here, I'm going to miss. Even if I'm following through, if it has to be this far in front of it to hit it. Because the shot's going out of the barrel at such a rapid speed that once the trigger's been pulled, you're really not going to be able to influence it all.
So there you have it, some good tips from a world-class wing shooter. The Island Lake Range is a cool concept. The DNR owns the ground and the buildings, but Pat and his team do everything else, and it's working well. If you're in the southeast part of our state, the Island Lake Range is a great place to get out and do more shooting, to get some great instruction and become a better hunter. So whether you're an up-and-coming skeet shooter or someone who just would like to hit more birds this fall, this might be the place for you.
On the waters of Port Huron, where Lake Huron meets up with the St.Clair River, there is a lot to see above the water, but we're also learning there's a lot to see under the water too. The aqua blue waters of the St.Clair River here in Port Huron draw people from near and far to see its beauty and to take in the local sights. Beneath the surface of these waters is a large population of lake sturgeon that come here to spawn every spring. Local divers and sturgeon enthusiasts Greg Lashbrook and Kathy Johnson had a great idea, so last month they invited a few folks out for a first ever sturgeon viewing trip aboard the Huron Lady tour boat. The attendees were waiting on call for the right moment when the water reaches the perfect temperature and the sturgeon come to spawn here where Lake Huron meets up with the St.Clair River. This trip was met with much anticipation.
Well, we're trying something new today. We're going to go out on the St. Clair River, out into Lake Huron, St. Clair River, and we're going to drift down. We're going to put a camera underwater and a diver, and he's going to grab the camera and kind of take it right through the sturgeon spawning grounds for us. And we'll be able to show we got a screen set up on the boat so that everybody can kind of watch it and get firsthand live, see what the sturgeon are doing. Hopefully it'll work.
Your first time giving it a whirl.
It is. So, tests, I've been like crazy all morning, but so far so good. We got a signal, so.
All right, worst case scenario, it's a beautiful day for a boat ride.
It is a beautiful day for a boat ride, yeah. And the sturgeon are here. That's the good news. We did have a diver who went through this morning and checked for us, and he said there's thousands of sturgeon under the Blue Water Bridge right now. So all we gotta do is see it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Well, Captain Higgins, what do you think of this? Is it gonna work?
It'll be interesting. Got a nice day for it. The fish are there. We'll just have to see if we can get everything connected and working right. First time out, we'll try and see what happens.
What are some of the marine regulations that you have to worry about as the captain of the Huron Lady too?
By law, you have to stay 200 feet from the dive boat. But since we've had a couple meetings with the diver and the crew, we know what's going on. We're going to be working pretty close to the diver, but we're going to have our motors off.
All right, and he's not going to be directly under us, right?
No, he's going to be at an angle. We're going to have our motors off, and we're going to be drifting downstream, and he's going to be drifting with the boat. So we should be okay.
All right.
We're going to go up just a little bit past the first and second buoy, and then we're gonna put it into idle, and Greg's on the other dive boat, suiting up right now, getting ready, and he's gonna come over and we're gonna give him the camera right here that you can see. This is the camera that we're using, and this is the live screen. Some of your feet, there you go, yep, live picture. He said that there right now are just thousands of sturgeon underneath the Blue Water bridges. So we got the conditions, we got the weather, we got the wind, we got the fish, and we got a camera, and we got a diver. So hopefully everything will go for us. So hope you guys enjoy.
So the stage was set. All we had to do now was get into position just north of the Fort Gratiot Lighthouse. We would begin our drift in Lake Huron, where the current is fairly substantial as it dumps into the St. Clair River. Greg was gearing up on the dive boat, and the spectators on the tour boat were waiting eagerly for the camera to be sent overboard, where Kathy would hand it off to Greg. This married couple aren't just professional divers and sturgeon enthusiasts, they also supplement their income as underwater videographers and film producers. The camera was now safely in Greg's hands, so let's sit back and watch as the underwater world comes to life through his lens.
Yeah, we do. We have signals that we can send to each other, so it's a way of being able to communicate with the diver when you don't have actual wired communications. And so it's pretty standard. We actually learned it from the Sheriff's Department dive rescue team. One, either from either of us means everything's okay. If he gives me 2, that means he needs more slack in the line. 2 means nothing for me, from my end. 3, he says take out the slack in the line. And 3 sort of means nothing for me at this end either. And then 4 is get your butt back to the boat or help, I'm in trouble. So those are the 4 signals that we use. So.
One of our passengers today was Jim Felgenauer, president of the new St. Clair Detroit River chapter of Sturgeon for Tomorrow.
Oh, this is a great thing. We're, one of the disadvantages we have here is we can't see the sturgeon, so it's very difficult to learn to appreciate those. This is wonderful. It takes us right down to the fish. We've seen some big fish right on screen. It's in your face. It's a blast. We got to do it again.
Well, this first ever sturgeon viewing trip was a success in everyone's eyes. We were able to see several sturgeon and even a shipwreck, and we got a good feel of what the terrain looks like where this sturgeon population comes to spawn. Greg was running low on air and getting pretty tired after more than an hour of swimming around with the camera, so we wrapped up and headed back to the dock. One guest aboard the boat today was Jim Bowes, a fish biologist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. He spoke a bit about the sturgeon research happening in the area, and passengers had a chance to pick his brain on this captivating species. In another couple of weeks here on Michigan Out of Doors, we'll head out with Jim and his crew as they catch, tag, and study sturgeon here in Port Huron. Back at the dock, I caught up with our underwater cameraman.
Saw some pretty good footage. There were quite a few sturgeon. Yeah. Viz could have been a lot better, but it could have been a lot worse. So sure. we're happy with that, and and the fish cooperated. They came over to the camera sometimes, so we were real happy.
Awesome.
So,
well, good job.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
It's awesome to see these giant sturgeon up close and personal. Stay tuned in the next couple of weeks to get an even more close-up look at them. Thanks for joining us here on Michigan Out of Doors this week. We hope you're all having a great summer in the outdoors. If you're indoors and on the computer, make sure you check us out on our website at michiganoutofdoorstv.com. You can check out old episodes, new recipes, all sorts of things on our website. You can also check us out on our Facebook page at Michigan Out of Doors TV. We've got a lot of fun stuff in store for you over the next few weeks too.
Well, we do have a lot of good stuff coming over the next several weeks here in Michigan Out of Doors, a lot of brand new segments, one of which is going to be from one of the more unique spots here in the state of Michigan, and that is Stannard Rock. If you've never been there, well, you're not alone. It's out in the middle of Lake Superior. You won't want to miss that story on next week's program. Lots of good fishing and a lot of other good stuff coming down the pipe as well here on Michigan Out of Doors. And so if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, hopefully we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Rosie Brothers. Located in Dryden, Michigan, Rosie Brothers has been serving Michigan for over 40 years. Specializing in outdoor needs, Rosie Brothers features Kubota tractors and equipment for use in farm, home, or commercial needs. On the web at rosiebrosinc.com. By Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises of Munising, exploring Lake Superior's Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore with its sandstone cliffs, caves, waterfalls, and lighthouses. Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises on the web at picturedrocks.com. By Propane, exceptional energy. Propane retailers promote the safe use of Michigan-produced gas energy in homes, farms, and businesses across our great state. Learn more at usemichiganpropane.com. By Meyer, a destination for hunting, fishing, and camping. From bug spray and tents to GPS and gas, Meyer has nearly everything you need to take on nature and get you there. Meyer. Closed captioning is brought to you by Propane, exceptional energy. Propane retailers promote the safe use of Michigan-produced gas to outdoor enthusiasts across our great state.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man.